Stan Laurel's face amused millions. But that smile hit a broken heart. 9 days after birth, his kid perished. One after another, his marriages ended. His wife said he tried to bury her alive. His money and properties vanished. Stan lost part of himself when Hardy died in 1957, but his latter years were much worse. Crying is nearly inevitable. Arthur Stanley Jefferson was born June 16, 1890, in a small home in Ulverston, England. His family adored theater. His father ran theaters, wrote plays, and acted. Before acting, his mother worked as a shop assistant. But Stan was a sick kid. He stayed with his grandma away from the spotlight while his parents toured. He grew fixated with it. He made toy theaters, played puppets, and performed for neighbors in costumes and makeup. Not simply a hobby. It was a calm future rehearsal. At 15, everything changed. His family went to Glasgow to be near his father's Metropole Theatre. Stan entered Queen's Park School but didn't like books. He routinely skipped class. Instead, he secretly performed with his friend Willie Walker's band. It was unglamorous but true. It offered him an audience school never could. That was his only wish. Before turning 16, he sneaked into the Britannia Panopticon Music Hall in 1906. He went on stage in one of his father's favorite suits without telling him. The audience chuckled, but his realization that his father was watching at him shocked him. Stan ran off stage and ripped the coat on a hook in panic. He was scared. His father just responded, "Not bad, son," after the show. "Have whiskey and soda?" That moment said all. He earned his stage time. He was soon hired by a traveling pantomime company thanks to his father. They performed funny fairy tales. It was hard. He had to learn timing, movement, and crowd reading. They performed daily, sometimes multiple times. However, he was learning quickly. These weren't kid shows. They were practice grounds. Fred Carnot followed. Carnot ruled British comedy. His troupe performed physical sketches. Stan was 19 when Carnot recruited him in 1909. Soon after, he understudied young Charlie Chaplin. Was big. They performed, traveled, and lived together on tours. Carnot's shows were dialogue-free. Everything was physical. Stan had to learn timing, body language, and nuance. He studied Chaplin but never imitated him. He was finding his groove. Carnot's troupe returned to America in 1912. Stan had no idea this journey would transform his life. He was suffering in England and barely surviving. U.S. tour offers came at the right time. He expected it to pass. It wasn't. After the trip, Chaplin went to Hollywood. Bookings stopped. The group split. Home for most. Stan didn't. He stayed. He was 22. Broken but hopeful. He knew America held something for him. He wandered vaudeville for years, performing Chaplin-like parts. He and his offstage partner May Dahlberg created a duo. Husband and wife lived together. Despite never married. He made his screen debut in 1917's Nuts in May, a short picture that fell short. It showed Stan at his best, physical, uncomfortable, adorable. He stole a steamroller in the film, which became a comedy. Around this moment, May told him Stan Jefferson had 13 letters. She considered it unlucky, so he changed his name to Stan Laurel. The new name was lighter and more hopeful, but success took time. He was stuck in little roles, strange sketches, and forgotten comedies for years. Although hilarious, producers didn't know what to do with him. Joe Rock followed. By 1924, Rock saw Stan's promise, but May was an issue. She demanded roles, attacked producers, and fought Stan backstage. Stan received a 12-film contract from Rock, but May had to go. Rock bought her a ticket to Australia and paid her to depart when she refused. It was severe, but it cleared the road. Detained, High-Eyed, and Dr. Pickle and Mr. Pride were Stan comedy. These weren't hits, but they showed something vital. He had found his modest, sensitive, expressive approach. He responded to chaos, not fought it. Folks laughed. Stan Laurel joined Hal Roach Studios in 1925, although not as a star. He was hired to write and direct. At least 22 films were directed by him in a year. It was a comedy called Yes, Yes, Nanette. Oliver Hardy played a minor role. People didn't care at the time. Laurel didn't act. Injury to Hardy changed everything. A kitchen accident. He was hospitalized, therefore the studio required someone. So they called Laurel. Though unimpressed, he returned to acting for Get 'Em Young, a short film. Filling in would affect his life forever. Years previously, Laurel and Hardy had appeared together. The Lucky Dog was filmed in 1921. Not popular. It was forgettable. They had a couple scenes together but weren't a team. 2 or 3 years passed before they saw each other again. Hardy labored. He filled every role. Characters in female costumes. His Vim comedy company shorts totaled 177. However, Laurel struggled. He sought to succeed alone. Different studios were tried. Different names were tried. However, nothing clicked. American public mostly perceived him as a priest clone or a silly crook. It wasn't enough. Not even the cameraman knew what to do with him. Metro, Universal, and Hal Roach were his stops in 1926. No one knew how to use his skill. After creating Nuts with May Dahlberg in May, Arthur Stanley Jefferson became Stan Laurel. Only in 1931 did he formally change his name. The chaos forced him to hone his comic skills. Unbeknownst to him, he was preparing for something bigger. Something arrived in 1927. It was Putting Pants on Philip. This was their first official film together. Laurel played a dumb Scottish boy in a kilt. Hardy played his mortified American uncle. The tale was straightforward. But it worked. Laurel suggested it. Based on a friend's old story, it was popular. Later, film historians called it one of their most distinctive comedies. The magic was there, but not the Stan and Ollie appearance. Roach Studios director Leo McCarey spotted the spark immediately. Keep them together, he urged the studio. One line inspired 107 films over 30 years. The sound followed. Most silent cinema actors were ruined, but Laurel and Hardy survived. They published Unaccustomed as We Are in 1929. They succeeded with their first talking image. Though sweet and innocent, Laurel's high-pitched voice made people laugh and fit. Other comedians failed, but Laurel and Hardy succeeded. Laurel took over behind the scenes. He rewrote scenes. He promoted improvisation. Hours were spent editing. Although directors and writers were there, everyone knew who was in charge. It was later admitted by Roach. Production was led by Laurel. He was the principal writer by 1929. Their frantic writing sessions yielded many ideas. Hardy didn't care. He joked, "I did the gags." That was enough, especially after so many mud holes. In May 1930, Stan Laurel was thriving. He and Oliver Hardy were becoming Hollywood's most popular comic duo. His wife Lois had their second child that month. It was boy. His name was Stanley Robert Laurel. He arrived 2 months early and little, but their home was briefly filled with hope and happiness. Most fans don't aware that Stan's legal name was Arthur Stanley Jefferson then. He became Stan Laurel 4 years later. So the baby's surname was Jefferson, not Laurel. The baby boy's arrival felt fresh. Stan and Lois had a 1927 daughter. Now they had a son. Despite Stan's movie schedule, the couple wanted another child, and he was born. Joy didn't last long. 2-week infant. His little body fought from birth. Stanley Robert Laurel died 9 days after birth. The loss devastated Stan and Lois. It was more than heartbreak. The wound never healed. Stan rarely discussed it publicly. Though he made millions laugh, he was grieving. Timing made things worse. While the world celebrated Laurel and Hardy, Stan was having a nightmare. They were warned by doctors. Then, there were no modern machines for premature newborns. Every hour was difficult. Ultimately, they lost. Stan never had a normal May after that. He would withdraw around his son's birthday, according to friends. He sometimes disappeared between scenes. He'd return with red eyes but wonderful comedy. It was like he laughed off the pain. Between 1930 and 1935, Stan's career flourished. About 45 films in 5 years. Several were tremendous hits. A 1932 Academy Award went to The Music Box. Things were going apart at home. The loss of their son steadily tore Stan and Lois apart. They attempted to hold things together but failed. Grief had divided them. Stan worked more and they got farther apart. They divorced in 1934 after 8 years of marriage. They had been separated for nearly a year, according to court documents. Work consumed Stan. Lois emotionally closed down. Daughter Lois Jr. lived largely with her mother. 7 years old. Later, she lived a full life and died at 89 in 2017. Stan married again a month after his divorce. She was Virginia Ruth Rogers. Friends believed he married to escape his background, but it ended. Stan revealed something unexpected in court. Lois, his first wife, remained his love. Virginia must have been devastated. The divorce in 1937 wasn't the end. Stan married her again in 1941 and divorced her again in 1946, a bizarre twist. No children came from either marriage, but their on and off relationship was Hollywood talk. Stan wasn't done with love or drama. Stan remarried on New Year's Day 1938. Now it was Russian actress Vera Ivanova Shuvalova. People called her Ilyana. Everyone was stunned by the wedding. It happened days after his last divorce. He was accused with bigamy by Virginia. The relationship and timing were problematic. They married 3 times in 4 months to ensure legality. Press adored it. The clashes made headlines. Stan became known as the hilarious man with a turbulent love life. Next came the craziest part. Ilyana said Stan tried to bury her alive in 1938. Yes, she alleged he tried to kill her in their backyard. The claim was wild. No one knew what to believe. Stan always played a kind, silly role. Now admirers heard about his dark and violent side. Ilyana fled their home and told her story. Despite insufficient evidence, the harm was done. His reputation plummeted. In 1940, the marriage ended. Ilyana gave up the Laurel name for $6,500, a lot at the time. Stan married 8 times to 5 women between 1926 and 1946. A few weddings were invalid. Some repeated. Like soap opera. He did that while making timeless comedy on screen. His final marriage was in 1946. She was Ida Kativa Raphael. She sang Russian opera. This marriage endured. Ida stayed with Stan for 19 years until his 1965 death. She saw him through his decline when Oliver Hardy died in 1957 and his final days. Everything changed for Laurel and Hardy in 1932. They had been funny for years, but the music box made them legends. A piano delivery seemed straightforward, but this piano was heavy. It was hauled up an unending stairway. Every time they approached, it collapsed. Again, theatergoers laughed as the piano fell like fate threatened them. They made history while being amusing. The first Oscar for a comedy short went to that short film. Even over a century later, that staircase remains. Tourists treat it as holy land. Most folks didn't know this. Stan Laurel didn't just scratch his head and cry when things went wrong. He was the thinker, writer, editor, and decision-maker behind the scenes. He ruled the creative process by 1929. Director requests that Stan didn't approve were ignored. Hal Roach, their producer, made that clear. Though Laurel didn't accept credit, he had final say. He rewrote scenes, edited and recut films to perfect the pace, timing every punchline. Hardy was cool with it. He stated he made money by falling in mud and getting hit all day. They were captivating on screen due of contrast. Hardy was at least 6 feet tall and 280 pounds. He looked like a boss, pretended to know everything, and always messed up. Laurel was petite, soft-spoken, and bewildered. Don't be duped. His naive expression struck a comical nerve. He was underestimated on screen and off. Instead of humorous man and straight man, they alternated as fools. They were different because of that. That resonated with Great Depression audiences. They recognized themselves in the chaos, effort, and joy. Their workdays were hell. Over 40 films were filmed from 1930 to 1940. That's over 4 annually. They weren't just camera-ready talking heads. Laurel and Hardy performed stunts. Real falls, injuries, no doubles or tricks. In the music box, they pulled a 500-pound piano up and down stairs till they collapsed. You could see the sweat, limps, and anguish behind the laughs. Just one film. 5 full-length productions were shot in 1935. Tat, The Fixer-Uppers, Thicker Than Water, Bonnie Scotland, and Bohemian Girl. That schedule breaks others, but not them. Stan Laurel's decline was gradual. It was humiliating, sluggish, and heartbreaking. It began in the late 1930s when his association with Hal Roach ended. Roach tied Laurel and Hardy's contracts to different dates. Powerful move. Roach acted quickly when Laurel's contract expired. Hardy and Harry Langdon were comedy partners in Zenobia. Slapped in the face. Roach even considered replacing Laurel with the Hardy family. Laurel resisted. His daring lawsuit against Roach could have ended everything. Laurel briefly returned to finish a chump at Oxford and Saps at Sea when they settled. It ended there. Their Roach Studios tenure ended. The fissures were too deep. Moving to 20th Century Fox and MGM in the early 40s sounded like a step forward, but it wasn't. Disaster struck. Laurel always ran their humor. He reworked scripts, directed sequences without credit, and conducted exciting, chaotic brainstorming sessions. In the new studios, he was a hired actor. Nothing to say or control. 8 films were filmed between 1941 and 1944. Budgets ranged from $300,000 to $450,000. Though small, the movie produced money. But the magic was gone. Laurel and Hardy stopped doing art. They were goods. The studios merely wanted profits. Fox later offered them more creative flexibility, but it was too late. The damage was done. Their 1945 Hollywood film The Bullfighters was their last. Funny was the goal. Laurel portrayed 2 roles, recalling his silent film days. It felt weird. The energy was lacking. Though it wasn't Laurel and Hardy, the film made people smile. Fox was quietly closing its B-movie division. The studio saw them as old comedians from another age, not stars. This film was their American goodbye. Atalke followed in 1950. They were scheduled to return. European production, creative control, tremendous remuneration, $150,000 apiece. Significant profits, but it was a nightmare. 6 languages were spoken by the crew. Communication failed. Filming was chaotic. Laurel took ill. Over 40 pounds were lost due to diarrhea and prostate infection. Heart issues resurfaced for Hardy. Heat, stress, and his 300-pound weight hurt. Instead of 12 weeks, the shoot lasted nearly a year. The script is updated daily. Fans were astonished when the film debuted in 1951. Laurel appeared ghostly. Comedy was stiff. Tall K flopped. It ended their film career. They did some theatrical appearances after that, but Hardy's health deteriorated. By 1954, it was over. Personal life for Laurel was nasty too. His 3 ex-wives received alimony by 1946. First wife Lois Nielsen divorced him in 1934. He married Virginia Ruth Rogers in 1935, divorced in 1937, and married Ilyana Shuvalova in 1938. That ended too. She was given $6,500 to drop the Laurel name. Remarried Virginia Ruth in 1941. They divorced again 1946. Court documents showed that 65% of his income went to alimony. He struggled to survive despite earning thousands per picture. May Dahlberg returned when things couldn't get worse. She was his vaudeville partner years ago. He allegedly promised her lifetime support. She sued him 1937. She took scrapbooks and anecdotes to court. Laurel looked unwell after hearing them. Court case drew attention. Dahlberg requested $350 per month, or $6,500 today. Although the matter was discreetly settled, Laurel had to pay legal fees and a new monthly duty. From 1937 to 1944, Laurel lost $360,000. It's over $6.5 million today. He trusted the wrong people, especially his cousin Edgar, who had no financial experience, and the money went. After investing in unsuccessful oil companies, Edgar lost $175,000. 3 years passed before he filed Laurel's taxes. An IRS penalty of $42,000 followed. Laurel's drinking hurt. He bought 3 expensive cars one night in 1940 after drinking heavily. His driving skills were non-existent. His eyesight was poor. He also failed to negotiate a reasonable 1941 deal with 20th Century Fox. No creative control, no character ownership. He worked for hire. He borrowed from Hardy to cover his bills by 1944. His home life disintegrated. He sold his 18-room Cheviot Hills property for 40% less in 1942. It contained a pool, tennis courts, and a private screening room. All gone. An auction sold furniture. His treasured 1938 Rolls-Royce Phantom III sold for $1,200. He lived in a tiny Santa Monica two-bedroom apartment by 1943. Friend thought he seemed defeated. In 1945, circumstances grew so terrible that his wife, Ida, worked at a department store to pay bills. The studios were making money while he was still acting. 4 years in court against Hal Roach, 1935 to 1939. It began when he discovered Roach had purposefully separated their contracts. Laurel sued Roach in 1935, but Roach had 7 lawyers. Only Laurel had one. Roach publicly criticized him as untrustworthy and tough. He was exhausted by the lawsuit. Hardy starred in Zenobia alongside Harry Langdon with Roach. The fans were devastated. Laurel spent $50,000 on the lawsuit. Never got that money back. Even after 2 more films with Roach, trust was lost. After signing with 20th Century Fox, it was déjà vu. Another creative rights-free contract. He was simply another employee at another studio. Laurel and Hardy took a break after Atoll K, their 1951 film. They needed to slow down because their health was deteriorating. After a few months, they returned stronger and more energetic. They performed live in Europe in 1952, not for a film. Stan Laurel wrote a new sketch, A Spot of Trouble, which proved successful. After that, they performed Birds of a Feather in 1953. One of their most emotional moments followed. They arrived at Cove, Ireland on September 9, 1953. They were shocked by what transpired. Hundreds of vessels encircled the harbor. A whistle blew. People on docks yelled and cheered. Stan stated they had no idea what was happening. But suddenly all the town's church bells rang its theme song, Dance of the Cuckoos. Sound flooded the air. Both men wept. They never forgot that moment. Their journey included Scotland, England, and Ireland. Some shows started with vacant seats. However, word spread and more individuals attended. Their run was 8 months. They performed their last gig at Plymouth's Palace Theatre on May 17, 1954. After the curtain fell, Oliver Hardy had a small heart attack. Even after the tour, a local review appreciated their ingenuity and wildness. Next came the hardest part. Doctors warned Hardy about his heart in 1956. Trying to alter his life. He shed roughly 45 kilograms, or 100 pounds. The large belly, which had delighted people for years, was gone. Despite losing weight, calamity struck. Massive stroke struck Hardy. He was immobile. He was speechless. The tragic twist came to a man whose life was about expression and timing. He never performed again. Stan Laurel stayed. He visited often but didn't talk. He didn't want Hardy to regret not responding. The two males, who began in silent cinema, communicated without words. They communicated by signals, gestures, and looks. It was enough. Unfortunately, the disease destroyed their link, which was unspoken. Hardy sold his house to pay creditors. World saw the truth. Fame didn't bring wealth. Not then. In August 1957, Hardy died. Stan Laurel followed 8 years later. He was 74. It happened in Santa Monica on February 23, 1965. Stan joked even in his final moments. He told his nurse he wanted to ski then. Though bedridden, the joke was hilarious, humorous, light, and memorable. Despite 10 years away from performing, his spirit remained.